Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about the Nikon D7200 and how it relates to the professional photographer and to the serious photo enthusiast. Not so much as a technical tutorial because you can get that on Nikon's website with all the specs, but I just want to go over just a few things just to show you how amazing this camera really is and why I really do like it quite a bit. So, as many of you may know, I've been a big fan of the Nikon D7000 when it first came out. I was using it for many portraits and many weddings also, and I'll be doing quite a bit of the filming with it on YouTube. In fact, the D7000 is actually doing this filming right now as we're looking at this. And I was just a happy user. Now, when the Nikon D7100 came out, I looked at the specs and I decided to pass on it. I didn't feel the need to upgrade to the 7100, so I passed on it. And then, however, now the 7200 is available, and I did take a look at the specs, and there are several things on there that I really liked about this camera. Number one, I like the fact that it does time-lapse photography inside the camera, so it renders a file that's all completed. So I think the D7200 may be the first Nikon to offer that, and to me that was a big plus because I'm doing more filming now and I wanted to add that to some of my projects. So right there, but also well, many of the specs, if you look at the three cameras that we're going to be referring to, of course, my Nikon 7000, 7100, and the D7200, very similar in specs, of course. With each upgrade, they have a little bit newer technology and slight upgrades. I really like the fact that all three of these models have a dual card slot. And I know some of you may be thinking, oh, big deal, I don't need two card slots. But to me, that's a big relief, because if anybody's ever gone through a professional job and something were to happen to one of your cards, got damaged, or something happened inside the camera, so maybe one of your card didn't get the images exactly right, or who knows what can happen, but I've been there. Even in the film days, certain things can happen to a roll of film, whether it's lost, damaged, or camera problems. So I believe in Murphy's Law. If anything can go wrong, there's a good chance it may go wrong. So this is actually, to me, it's a big deal, because how much would it be worth it to you if you were to, say you just got done photographing a wedding and all of a sudden something happened to the card, whether it got damaged, lost. Loss is bad because, of course, you could have a card that may have been damaged or corrupted, and you may still be able to get the files back. But anyway, it's just very important. I'm just saying that how much would it be worth it to you to get that card back? So this is worth a whole lot more than maybe some people realize. I really like the fact that both the 71 and the 7200 have a higher resolution monitor. That's really nice to give you those crisp, clear colors. I also like the fact that the 7200 gives the most shots per battery. I believe the 7200 has a little over 1100 shots per battery, where the 71, I believe, is only 950 and 1050 on the D7000. So that's really a plus when you're doing professional work, like you're doing maybe sports, doing team shots, or weddings especially, because it's, instead of having to always worry about when is your battery going to be running out, you're pretty well covered with that. So that's a big plus also to me. The Nikon D71 and 7200 have the 51 focusing points, whereas the 7000 had 39. So the 51 is, I guess it's kind of a bonus, but I don't really need all that many focusing points. I believe my Nikon D300 has 51 also on there, so it's kind of nice. Now the megapixels on the 71 and 7200 are about the same, whereas the D7000 has just 16.2 only. But that's really more than most people really need. course, having the 24.2 megapixel sensor may be a plus if you ever want to do giant, large images, if you ever want to do, but it's going to slow your process down. So if you don't need that, even if you're doing a wedding, that's, well, I guess it's good to have, but for most things, if you're doing like just hobby stuff or fun stuff, you can even lower your resolutions if you want to, but it's there if you need it. And it's also a good plus if you're doing a wedding. Instead of having to rotate your camera all the time, you can just shoot everything horizontal, and then you can just crop that way. But it's kind of nice having that. And also, I really like the fact, because I did notice that the 7200 is slightly sharper than my D7000. That's probably because they eliminated the anti-alias filter that goes over the sensor, which is supposed to eliminate moire, but I guess they figured getting rid of that filter is a plus in increasing the sharpness just a little bit, and I definitely noticed that slight difference when you're using a very sharp lens. Makes a big difference. So let's take a look at a few images that were taken with the Nikon D7200, and I got to tell you, I really do like this camera quite a bit. It is super fast, just like the D7000 was. Of course, this has newer technology. It has great focusing in low light. It shoots just super fast, and what I like most about it is probably the fact that the colors that come out of this camera are just really amazing. I don't want to say they're perfect because every situation is different, but they're very good in shooting in auto white balance. So really amazing. So after I got this camera, I couldn't wait to go out and test it. So I took it with me to a few places. So after you get a new camera and you want to test it, what's the first thing that you do? Right, you go out and get a haircut. So I went to visit my barber, and this is the first time, luckily, that when I got there was nobody else in the waiting area, nobody in the chair. And of course, that only took a few seconds until people started walking in again. But I just asked them if I could just do a really quick shot of the three of them just standing by the chair. And this is a combination of natural light mixed with, I had the SB800 flash mounted on top of my camera, and I bounced that off the ceiling, and it was set to -1. So these are just really quick. And this is the natural color coming right out of the camera. I did crop it off just a little bit, but other than that, this is straight from the camera. And I figured this would be a nice black and white because their shop sort of has a retro look. So I made this into a black and white in Photoshop and vignetted the edges just a little bit. I also wanted to do a focusing test on the D7200 because many people had complained about the D7000. Several people mentioned that they had focusing problems with their 7000. And I tested my 7000 also. As a matter of fact, I have a tutorial on YouTube on how to test your camera for focusing, and you can take a look at that if you want to just check some of your fast lenses. But that was one of the first things that I did. So here I put on my 70-200 Nikon f2.8 lens. And of course, when you're doing this, I was shooting at just really low light because I had it set to f2.8 because I want to get as least amount of depth of field as possible. So when you focus on the center point, I want to make sure that that's what shows up in the final image. And this camera was pretty much spot on the focusing. I did about 8 or 10 different exposures at that setting, and very accurate. So I didn't have to do any adjusting on the focusing with this lens, but I did on my D7000. So then I put on another lens that I started using quite a bit, and that is the Tamron 28-75 f2.8, also a very sharp and fast lens. I had this in my camera bag for years. Now, I haven't used it all that much, but I got it back out and started using it again because I like the fact that It is very sharp and it's very light and easy to travel with. It's not as big and clumsy as the 7200 is, but very, very sharp. So I also tested this out, and it was also very, very spot on. I was very happy with the test results on using these two fast lenses, so I didn't have to make any adjustments, and that was a big plus. So I was ready to go out and take some more photos.